Quick question for you. How much would you pay to block 80% of cyber breaches hitting your business?
Depends. Are we talking thousands of pounds or firstborn children? Because I'm pretty attached to my eldest.
How does 45 quid sound?
Per month.
Per decade?
Okay, you've got my attention. What's the catch?
You have to stop trusting your mobile phone.
Right. There's always a catch. Today, we're discussing why the thing in your pocket might be the worst security key you could choose and what actually works instead.
He's the guy with the plan for your online life. Keeps your data safe, cuts through the strife. Small biz owners, yeah, this is your guide. Cyber threats, beware, no place to hide. The small business cybersecurity guy, guarding your world with a sharp eagle eye. Tips and tricks to keep your systems tight. Stay secure, stay strong in the digital fight.
Welcome back to the Small Business Cybersecurity Guy podcast. I'm Noel Bradford, and joining me as always is Moven McLeod. Today, we have a guest, Mark Bell from Authentication, who is sponsoring this episode and will help us explain why your phone may not be secure enough for your business.
And before anyone panics, this isn't about throwing your phone in the bin. It's about understanding what phones are actually good at and where they fail completely. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. And yes, phones are brilliant communication devices. They're just terrible keys for your critical business information.
Let's start with the basics. Most people's first experience with multi-factor authentication was probably getting a text message with a 6-digit code. Mark, was that your first encounter with MFA?
Absolutely. And I think that's true for most people. You're told it's required, you get an SMS code sent to your phone, you type it in, job done. Felt secure, seems straightforward. The problem is we've learned quite a bit about vulnerabilities since then.
When you mention vulnerabilities, are we referring to theoretical academic issues or real exploits being used by criminals at the moment?
Very much the latter. Mobile phones are communication devices first and foremost. In some respects, it's quite unusual that we're now using them as keys for critical business information. Convenience became more important than security in people's minds.
And that's the heart of the problem. We took the device everyone already had in their pocket and said, right, this will do for security. We optimise for adoption rather than protection.
I'm guilty of this myself. My banking app sends me SMS codes. Half my work logins use authenticator apps on my phone. It feels secure because it's an extra step beyond just a password. Are you telling me that feeling is wrong?
Not entirely wrong, but definitely incomplete. SMS one-time passwords are better than nothing, but they're not secure against determined attackers. I can demonstrate the vulnerabilities in about 10 minutes with the right tools, all of which are freely downloadable.
10 minutes. Not 10 weeks of research and expensive equipment. 10 minutes.
Exactly. And that's the gap between what small business owners think their security provides versus what it actually delivers.
Before we delve into solutions, let's ensure we have a clear understanding of what we're discussing. What actually is multi-factor authentication? And please pretend I run a bakery and my technical knowledge extends to, can I turn it off and on again?
Perfect starting point. If you're using just a username and password, those are 2 bits of information you know, one of which is probably publicly available anyway, since your username is typically an email address.
So at that point, your data is protected by a single thing, a password, which depends on you remembering it and attackers not knowing it. If that password becomes compromised, the keys to your data are already in the hands of others.
Right. Multi-factor authentication makes this slightly easier to manage. Instead of your password being the only piece of information, you need at least 2 out of 3 possible choices. Things you know, passwords, pins, that sort of thing. Things you are, such as biometric data like fingerprints or Face ID. And things you have, such as physical objects like a phone, security keys or smart cards.
I remember those RSA token devices. Small gadgets with changing numbers that you had to enter. I never quite worked out how that number was generated, but I assume it followed the same principle as the time-based codes we use now.
Same principle, yes, and they were an absolute nightmare if you travelled. Somebody put one through an airport X-ray machine and it stopped working. Suddenly, you're stuck abroad and can't access anything.
Those card scenarios you're describing were quite common in enterprise and defense organizations. You'd get a card reader, plug it in, insert your card, tap in your PIN to authenticate to the card itself, and then you could access your systems. Reasonably secure, but somewhat cumbersome.
Somewhat cumbersome is putting it mildly. I'd call it actively hostile to human beings who have actual work to do.
Which is why banks went a different route for consumer use. Moven, you mentioned having one of those calculator-looking devices from your bank?
I still have it in a drawer somewhere. You insert your card, enter your PIN, and it generates a code. I haven't used it in years because the app on my phone now does everything, which I'm guessing is about to be revealed as a terrible decision.
Not terrible, but worth examining. Those card readers were actually quite secure. You needed the physical card and your PIN. The problem was purely convenience. The reader stayed at home, the card stayed in wallets, and suddenly you couldn't access your account when traveling.
The industry shifted to phones because everyone has one. They're always with you, and the user experience is seamless. Sensible from an adoption perspective, catastrophic from a security perspective.
That's probably too harsh. Phone-based authentication is better than passwords alone. However, it creates new vulnerabilities that many organizations haven't adequately considered.
All right, let's address the elephant in the room. I use SMS codes. My bank uses SMS codes. Half the services I access use SMS codes. Are you saying this is all security theatre?
I'm saying it provides basic protection against opportunistic attacks, but fails against targeted attacks. And for small businesses, you're increasingly seeing targeted attacks rather than random ones.
Mark mentioned a client recently. Tell us about the 15-user firm that thought they were protected.
Right, this was just last week. A professional services firm with approximately 15 employees uses one-time passwords via SMS for their Microsoft 365 access. They thought they were safe because they'd implemented multi-factor authentication. They were surprised when they got breached and had people demanding money from them.
Hang on, they had MFA enabled and still got breached?
The SMS-based MFA, yes. And so the attackers sat in the middle and intercepted the codes. It's not even challenging. The demonstration takes about 10 minutes with freely available tools.
10 minutes. We keep coming back to that number, and it terrifies me every time.
Please walk me through this. I'm an employee at this firm. I try to log into my email. I get an SMS code. I type it in. Where does the attack happen?
The attacker has already compromised your password through a data breach or phishing attack. They attempt to log in as you, which triggers the SMS code to be sent to your phone. But they've also set up tools that intercept that code before you even see it. Or they've convinced your mobile provider to swap your SIM card to a device they control.
SIM swapping. That's the one that makes me irrationally angry because it's so simple. The attacker calls your mobile provider, claims to be you, says they've lost their phone, and asks for the number to be transferred to a new SIM. If the customer service agent isn't paying attention or doesn't follow proper verification procedures, boom, they now receive all your SMS codes.
And there's nothing the user can do about that because the vulnerability is at the mobile provider level, not the user level.
Exactly. You can have perfect password hygiene, never click phishing links, follow every security practice recommended, and still get compromised because your mobile provider's customer service desk had a bad day.
This is why the National Cybersecurity Centre has been moving away from recommending SMS for years. It's not that it's useless, it's that it's insufficient against modern attacks.
So what's the alternative? Because I'm assuming you're not about to tell small business owners to go back to carrying smart card readers around.
No, we're not going backwards. We're going to something actually better. Have you heard of FIDO2?
I've seen it mentioned in NCSC guidance, but pretend I haven't.
FIDO stands for Fast Identity Online. It's a set of open standards for passwordless authentication that uses public key cryptography to create more secure phishing-resistant logins. Essentially, it replaces passwords with a more secure method that utilizes either hardware security keys or credentials stored on your local device.
And the NCSC updated their guidance last month, didn't they? Explicitly recommending passkeys as the way forward.
They did. This represents a significant shift in thinking. We've moved from use multi-factor authentication to use this specific type of multi-factor authentication because the others have known problems.
Right, so what's a passkey? and hearing the term everywhere, but still don't really understand what it means in practice.
A passkey is a FIDO2 credential stored on your device, such as a phone or a hardware security key like Authentication keys. The key difference lies in how this credential is used. If stored on your phone, the passkeys are more likely to be shared and transferred among friends, family, or colleagues, which presents challenges for organizations to manage and makes these soft passkeys almost redundant.
Because you can't confirm the identity of the user if the passkey is shareable, your employee could hand their phone to someone else, who could then access company systems.
Precisely, whereas if the passkey is stored on a hardware security key, it's restricted to that key. It's like a physical key for your front door, except it's a key for your applications. No physical key, no access.
And this is actually more secure than SMS codes? Not just theoretically more secure, but practically more secure against the attacks we're seeing right now.
Significantly more secure. Hardware security keys are phishing-resistant because the credential never leaves the device. Even if an attacker tricks you into trying to log into a fake website, the hardware key won't authenticate because it cryptographically verifies that it's talking to the legitimate service.
Can you explain that without getting too deep into the cryptography? I believe this is the crucial point that people need to understand.
When setting up a hardware key with a service, it generates a unique pair of cryptographic keys, one private and one public. The private key remains securely stored on the hardware device and cannot be copied, extracted, or shared. The public key is sent to the service. During login, the service issues a challenge, and your hardware key signs this challenge using the private key, confirming your identity. Importantly, the private key itself is never transmitted.
So even if I'm on a compromised computer or a fake website or somebody's watching over my shoulder, they still can't access my accounts because they don't have the physical key.
Exactly right. And that's why the NCSC is now recommending this approach. It closes vulnerabilities that we've known about for years, including those addressed by SMS and authenticator apps.
Moven's got that look on her face. That means she's about to ask the awkward question.
I absolutely have. What's the catch? Because this sounds genuinely good, which means there must be a catch.
The catch is that you actually need to use them, which sounds obvious. But here's the thing. If security is too difficult, people find workarounds. They leave backdoors open, write passwords down, and enable less secure methods because the safe method is too much of a hassle.
I like the 3 locks on the front door as an analogy. You come home every day and have to unlock 3 separate locks. Eventually, you're only locking one because it's too complicated.
Exactly. That is why biometric authentication on hardware keys is so important. The Authentication keys can use fingerprint authentication. You touch the key, it verifies your fingerprint, job done. No pins to remember, no codes to type. Makes it easy for people to authenticate correctly.
Wait, fingerprint authentication on the key itself, not sending your fingerprint data anywhere.
Correct. The fingerprint data never leaves the key. It's stored in the secure element on the device, used only for local verification. You touch the key and it checks your fingerprint against the stored one, unlocking the cryptographic functions. No fingerprint data is transmitted anywhere.
This addresses both security and privacy concerns. Your biometric data isn't sitting in some company's database waiting to be breached.
All right, I'm sold on the concept. Now, let's talk about the reality of actually implementing this in a small business. I'm imagining the bakery owner listening to this, thinking, great, another thing I need to buy and figure out.
Fair concern. Let's talk about practicalities. The Authentication keys retail at around 45 per unit. For a business lifespan of 10 years, that's less than £5 per year per user.
And you need multiple keys, because if someone loses their only key, they're locked out completely.
Absolutely. At Authentication, we recommend multiple keys, minimum 2 per user, one for daily use, one as backup kept secure at home or in the office. Some organizations go with 3, which provides even better redundancy.
We're talking about £90 to £135 per user for a 10-year security solution. That's actually less than most people spend on coffee in a month.
And significantly less than dealing with a data breach. The average cost of a breach for a small business in the UK is at least tens of thousands of pounds. Many companies don't recover.
Plus, there are cost savings that offset the initial investment. Password reset calls to IT support drop dramatically. We've seen organizations reduce help desk tickets by 75% just by eliminating password problems.
I need to ask about cyber essentials because that's going to be the first question from UK listeners. The Willow question set, introduced in April, explicitly mentions passkeys, and the modifications released last week for 2026 essentially require it.
It does. The new Cyber Essentials scheme explicitly includes passwordless authentication methods, including security keys, one-time codes, push notifications, and biometric authentication. What they're not doing is distinguishing between MFA, that's easy to use, and secure, versus MFA, that gives you basic protection.
This creates a problem because organisations can tick the Cyber Essentials box with SMS codes, think they're compliant and secure, then discover they're compliant but vulnerable.
Exactly the gap we're trying to address. Meeting minimum compliance requirements doesn't equal effective security. You can be fully compliant and still get breached if you're using authentication methods with known vulnerabilities.
So, for organisations that want to be properly secure rather than just technically compliant, hardware keys are the way forward.
For high-risk accounts, absolutely, and increasingly for general users as well. The technology has matured to where it's both more secure and easier to use than older methods.
Right, let's get practical. A small business owner listening to this, currently using SMS codes or authenticator apps, wants to move to hardware keys. Where do they start?
Start with risk assessment. Identify your highest risk accounts first. That's going to be privileged accounts, system administrators, anyone with financial authorization, C-suite executives, all of whom are prime targets for social engineering.
So we're not trying to roll this out to everyone simultaneously.
No, a phased deployment makes much more sense. Tier 1, immediate deployment in the first month, covers privileged accounts and executives. Those are your highest value targets and your most significant vulnerabilities. Tier 2, over the next few months, rolls out to high-risk applications and departments. Tier 3 aims for full coverage within the year.
And during that rollout period, you're learning what works, training people properly, and identifying any systems that need special handling.
Precisely. You also discover which applications support hardware keys natively and which need workarounds. Most modern cloud services now support FIDO2 directly. Microsoft 365, Google Workspace, major cloud platforms. They all work with hardware keys out of the box.
What about legacy systems? Because I'm thinking of clients I've worked with who have critical applications that haven't been updated since 2010.
Legacy systems are trickier. Sometimes you can use the hardware key to authenticate to a jump box or VPN that then accesses the legacy system. Sometimes you need bridge solutions. It's not always perfect, but it's still better than leaving high-risk accounts protected only by SMS codes.
And training matters here. You can have the best security technology in the world, but if people don't understand how to use it or why it matters, they'll find ways around it.
Training is absolutely crucial. People need to understand this isn't security theatre, it's genuine protection. When they see that touching their key is faster and easier than typing SMS codes, adoption becomes much smoother.
What about the scenario where someone loses their key? Because that's going to happen.
Which is why you have backup keys. If someone loses their primary key, they use their backup to access systems, then you revoke the lost key and issue a replacement. The backup key becomes primary, new backup gets registered, life continues.
And because the keys are tied to specific accounts, losing one key doesn't compromise everything. You revoke that specific credential. No other changes are necessary.
Correct. Compare that to losing a password manager or phone with all your SMS codes, much more contained problem.
We've talked about security benefits and compliance requirements. What else changes when you move to hardware keys?
Insurance premiums, for starters. Cyber insurance providers are starting to ask specific questions about authentication methods. Using phishing-resistant MFA may reduce your premiums or make you eligible for coverage that wouldn't be available otherwise.
Some industries have regulatory requirements that extend beyond cyber essentials. Financial services, healthcare, legal, sectors handling sensitive information increasingly require specific authentication standards.
What about productivity? Because I'm cynical enough to know that security only gets a budget if it either saves money or generates revenue.
Faster authentication means less time wasted on password resets and account lockouts. Microsoft's own research showed that they saved $12 million per month on password reset costs after moving to passwordless authentication.
Users are also less frustrated by forgotten passwords or authentication delays. Touch your key, you're in. No waiting for SMS codes, no typing 6-digit numbers while they expire. No, I tried 3 times and now I'm locked out, calls to IT.
So the ROI calculation isn't just we avoided a breach. It's also we reduced IT overhead and improved productivity.
Exactly. Even without a breach, you can see a return on investment within 12 to 18 months, simply from reduced support costs. Any prevented breaches are bonus savings on top of that.
Also, there's the future-proofing aspect. The FIDO Alliance is actively working on implementing post-quantum cryptography. When quantum computing becomes a practical threat to current encryption methods, the hardware keys can be updated to support quantum-resistant algorithms.
That's thinking 5 to 10 years ahead.
We're probably looking at longer timelines, but the infrastructure is being built now. It is better to have authentication systems that can evolve rather than needing complete replacement when threats change.
All right, we've made this sound brilliant. What are we not telling people? What are the problems nobody mentions until after implementation?
Honest answer, user resistance. People don't like change. Even when the new system is easier and more secure, there will be pushback from people who are comfortable with the current system.
How do you handle that? Because you can't simply force people to adopt new security measures and expect them to work.
Executive buy-in helps enormously. If leadership is using hardware keys and discussing why it matters, that message filters down. However, you also need champions in each department who understand the benefits and can effectively support their colleagues.
And clear communication about why the change is happening. Not IT has decided this, but here's the threat we're addressing. Here's how this protects you and the company. Here's how it makes your life easier.
What about the physical management of keys? Small business owners are already juggling keys for their building, car, and filing cabinet. Now we're adding security keys to that collection.
Fair point. Some people attach them to key rings, some keep them in desk drawers at work. The biometric versions mean you're not constantly having to type pins, which makes keeping them accessible more practical.
And because they're small and durable, they're not like carrying around those old RSA tokens or card readers. These fit on a keyring without being intrusive.
The newer versions also support NFC, allowing you to use them with mobile devices without needing to plug them in. Touch them to your phone, authenticate, and done.
Last question on implementation. What about remote workers? Because many small businesses now have people working from home at least part-time.
Actually makes hardware keys more critical, not less. Remote workers are higher risk targets because they often use less secure networks, employ personal devices alongside work devices, and face less oversight.
Hardware keys work everywhere, whether at home, in the office, or at a client site. You're not dependent on SMS reception or mobile network availability. Plug in the key or tap it against your device, authenticate locally, and you're in.
Right, so we've convinced someone listening to this that hardware keys make sense for their business. What's the actual first step they take tomorrow morning?
Assessment first. List all your critical accounts and applications. Who has access to what? Which accounts would cause catastrophic damage if compromised?
And be honest about current security. Are you using SMS codes, authenticator apps? Nothing at all beyond passwords. Understanding where you are determines where you need to go.
Then what? Start buying keys for everyone?
Run a pilot first. Select 5 to 10 high-risk users, set them up with hardware keys, and test the system for a month. Learn what works, what doesn't, and what training gaps exist.
The pilot also gives you internal case studies. When other staff members see colleagues using the keys successfully and discussing how easy they are to use, adoption becomes easier.
And budget planning, because £45 per key doesn't sound like much, but multiply that by 50 employees with 2 keys each, and suddenly it's £4,500.
Which you can phase over budget cycles. High-risk users this quarter, next tier, next quarter. And remember, this is capital expenditure that lasts 10 years, not recurring subscription costs.
Compare it to other security spending. Most small businesses pay more for antivirus software annually than they'd spend on hardware keys once per decade.
Speaking of which, should people wait for Black Friday deals or just get on with implementation?
Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. If waiting 3 months for a potential discount means 3 more months of SMS-based authentication, you're taking unnecessary risk for minimal savings.
Though check with resellers about volume pricing. Buying 10 or 20 keys often gets better rates than buying 1 or 2.
Mark, before we finish, give us the reality check. What's the one thing small business owners need to understand about authentication security?
SMS one-time passwords are not secure against determined attackers. You can demonstrate the vulnerabilities in 10 minutes. If your business is worth targeting, and honestly, every business is worth targeting now, SMS codes will not protect you.
And hardware keys actually solve this problem. Not theoretically, but in actual criminal attack scenarios we're seeing right now.
They eliminate 80% of the breach vectors involving compromised credentials. Not reduce, eliminate phishing attacks that work perfectly against SMS codes, fail against hardware keys. That's not marketing, that's cryptographic reality.
Moven, you had reservations at the start. Have we convinced you?
I'm convinced that I need to move my own systems over to hardware keys, which is probably the best measure of whether security advice is legitimate. If I'm willing to use it myself, rather than just recommend it to clients, that says something.
And for listeners who want more information, we'll have links in the show notes to AuthentiTrend, to the NCSC passkey guidance, to implementation resources.
Happy to answer questions as well. Contact details will be in the show notes. If you're trying to determine how this works for your specific situation, please reach out.
Final thought. This isn't theoretical security for hypothetical threats. This is practical protection against actual attacks happening right now. Every week, I hear about small businesses getting breached through compromised credentials. Every week.
And most of those breaches were preventable with hardware keys. Not all of them, but most. 80% is a real number, not marketing fluff.
The technology is mature, the pricing is accessible, and the user experience is good. This isn't like 5 years ago when passwordless authentication was experimental. It works now. The question is whether you implement it before a breach or after.
Well, that's cheerful and terrifying in equal measure. Thanks for joining us, Mark.
Thanks for having me. It's been great fun, and it's nice to meet you both finally.
Right, that's our deep dive into authentication security and why your phone is a terrible key. Next week, and it could be a tad controversial, we have an interesting thought experiment for you.
Oh, we're going there, are we? That'll ruffle a few feathers. But that's next week. This week, assess your authentication methods and determine where hardware keys make sense.
As always, like, subscribe, review, comment. Please tell us what authentication methods you're currently using and whether this episode has convinced you to make a change. Visit the blog for detailed implementation guides and step-by-step instructions.
And thanks to AuthentiTrend for sponsoring this episode and for Mark's time sharing his expertise. Link to their website and products in the show notes.
Until next week, stay secure.
Stay skeptical of security theatre.
And stop trusting your phone to protect your business.
Before we let you go completely, let's have a brief discussion about the necessary but tedious legal details. Don't worry, I'll make this as painless as possible. First, and this is important, everything we've said today represents our own personal opinions and experiences. These views are ours alone and don't represent any organisation we work for, any employers, advertisers, sponsors, or anyone else who might be connected to the show. When we offer advice or share our thoughts, it comes from us as individuals, not on behalf of anyone else. Everything we've talked about today is for general guidance. It's intended to guide you in the right direction, but it shouldn't be treated as professional advice, tailored specifically to your business. Your situation is unique. What works brilliantly for a Birmingham bakery might be completely useless for a Manchester marketing agency. We do our very best to keep everything accurate and current, but let's be honest here. The cybersecurity world moves faster than a caffeinated squirrel. Things can change between when we record and when you're listening. So always double check critical technical details with qualified professionals before you go making major changes to your systems. If we've mentioned any websites, products or services, we are providing you with information, not necessarily endorsing them. We can't be responsible for what happens on their end or if things go sideways when you use them. Some things we recommend might involve affiliate partnerships. We'll always flag those when they come up because transparency matters. Now, if you're dealing with serious cybersecurity incidents, actual data breaches, or complex legal compliance issues, please consult with qualified professionals rather than relying solely on podcast advice. We're here to educate and help you understand the landscape, not to replace your security consultant, solicitor, or IT team. Finally, and this is important, while we genuinely want to help you improve your security, We can't accept liability for any losses or problems that may occur from following our suggestions. Think of us as your knowledgeable mates down the pub who work in cybersecurity, not your official contracted consultants. We care about your business, but we're not your insurance policy. Stay safe out there, keep learning, and remember, when in doubt, get a second opinion from someone who can see your specific situation. Cheers. This has been a Small Business Cybersecurity Guy production. Copyright 2025. All rights reserved.
Thank you for tuning in today. We shared the tools to keep threats away. Stay sharp, stay smart, protect your gear. The small biz cyber guy is always near. Click subscribe and join the ride. Together we'll shield the digital tide. Your business is strong when your data's secure. The small biz cyber guy, here to ensure. From firewalls to password might, we got your back day and night. For questions or tips, don't hesitate. This cyber crew is first rate. So keep your systems locked up tight. Back them up and sleep at night. Small steps make a difference big. Protect your dreams with a clever ring. Click subscribe and join the ride. Together we'll shield the digital tide. Your business is strong when your data's secure. The small biz cyber guy, here to ensure. Thanks for listening, we're signing off. Stay cyber safe no matter the cost. The small biz cyber guy says good